You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Leftist lies and globalists, I'm pushing them back. From the saloon to the airwaves, I'm spitting it raw. Constitution's my compass, liberty's law. Big guns creeping, shadows on the land. Feds with the schemes trying to bind up my hands. But I'm the Sherpa, guiding through the storm. Red, white, and blue, yeah, freedom's reborn. They spin their tails, but I see through the haze. Media maggots, lost in the maze. I'm calling it out, no fear in my soul. This patriot's fire ain't losing control. Conservative Sherpa leading the fight. Torch in the dark, burning bright in the night. Stand for the truth, won't bow to the game. Sherpas, come and remember my name. Sherpas rising. Let this judge is twisting, trying to steal our rights, but I'm locked and loaded, got them in my sights. From J6 to the border, they're selling us out. I'm screaming from the mountain, hear my rebel shout. They mock the flag, but I'm holding it high. Stars and stripes forever under God's open sky. No globalist chains gonna cage this land. I'm the Sherpa with the truth in my hand. They push their agenda, but I'm breaking the mold. Their promises empty, their hearts ice cold. Chicago's bleeding, borders torn apart. I'm fighting for the people with the warrior's heart. Conservative Sherpa leading the fight. Torch in the dark, burning bright in the night. Stand for the truth, won't bow to the game. Sherpas, come and remember my name. Sherpas rising. I've walked the line, 41 years, badge on the grind, now I'm on the air. My voice like a blade, cutting through the lies that the traitors made. Hurricanes rage, but we're standing tall. Sheriffs of the Constitution answering the call. From the saloon to the heart of the fray, we're taking back America, no more delay. Conservative Sherpa leading the fight. Torch in the dark, burning bright in the night. Stand for the truth, won't bow to the game. Sherpas, come and remember my name. Sherpas rising. Hear my voice resound. Conservative Sherpa, freedom's battleground. Berserk, Bobcat, rules will never kneel. For God and country, this fight is real.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting from Nof, Idaho, in an actual free state. I loves it here. I am this guy. I am your conservative Sherpa, and I do this sort of thing. I am guiding you personally through the insidious maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist, and now communist lies, chaos, bedlam, tyranny, deceit, and betrayal. Most deaf. And I am here to do that with you tonight, every night. Also, please remember, if you would, What you're about to hear roughly for the next 2 hours consists of my opinion and my opinion only. I am doing the job the American media maggots refuse to do. I am fundamentally changing America one leftist diaper at a time. As you well know, we do not water our drinks here, just like we don't water our conversation. We are still serving this stiff drinks right here in the saloon, along with facts, history, logic, rationality, context, tradition, clarity, and common sense for great people like you and me. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here in the saloon where the speech is free, but the booze is not. I am streaming on a veritable horde, a cornucopia of places like this. Look at those places. They're all over the place. All those places. And also courtesy of this guy who streams and restreams and streams the streaming restream, Rick Robinson at KLRN. A great place to be. And if I'm not misunderstanding things, it's to be a little bit greater in the not too distant future. One programming note, which I will remind you of a little bit later, and that's that we probably will not be seeing the return of Lyle Armstrong and his Beer and Bullstein show. If there is a further update, if a decision is made to return, then I will be the first to tell you right here. So, important programming note now and in the future. At this point, I don't believe the show will be returning. And as we're talking, I showed you this, our mug, the SHR Media mug right here. And I want to tell you this thing here. Let me take this off just for a second. This thing is just about made of cast iron. I'm telling you, gang. Let me see. Here's this. Does that sound like it's made of rock or what? Well, it's damn near made of rock. This is great. And I beseech thee that if you want to find this mug and other things related to SHR, go right here to the SHR Media shop. You'll find 250 Reasons t-shirt, this great mug, which I bought one of, and I bought one of all these shirts here, except the hoodie. I don't like hoodies unless they zip. This doesn't zip, so no recommendations for you for the hoodie. If it zipped, okay, fine, I would do that. And also, I recommend here, because if you look, wait a minute, put that back. Here's a t-shirt from Mission Ready Men at 7 Armors. And you can get this shirt and a whole bunch of other shirts from Earl, who was on the show used before me, beginning at 6 p.m. Pacific. And you go here to Mission Ready Men. This is the store. Shop 7 Armors. Hey, are you offended yet? That's a great shirt. Hey, look, it's BZ's shirt right here, Ungovernable. You can get it in cream and whatever the hell color. There it is that I'm wearing right here, which is, I don't know, I'm colorblind. So to me, it looks kind of orange. And highly recommended. So those are the places that you can go to get this cool stuff. And of course, in here, I hope you have your own personal imbibication for tonight, in which you may imbibe, because that's always recommended here on the show. It's a late night show. You're going to hear some stuff tonight. Oh, do I have a grand show tonight? I do, in fact, have first, the show tonight is about Fauci, fires, and freedom 3 rather large topics. There will be a carousel of amusing GURP. There will be something new because of various things that I've discovered, crimes against humanity. There will be amusing stories. There will be happy stories. And there will be communism because it's so great. Everyone wants you to do it. Right? So those are the topics that you're going to be seeing here tonight as we begin, and courtesy of Rick Robinson. Let's do the carousel of amusing GURP. And now there's actual music for it. Okay. Come on, let's go. There we go. Here's the first one for tonight. Highly recommended. Now, I have played this one before, but if you want to get yourself into a great mood, I watched this before the show, and that's how I got myself into a positive thing. I'm in such a positive mood right now. This is great. This is a FAFO indicator where a rioting commie, they, them, whoever the hell they happen to be, picked up a flashbang and they had their fingers blown off. Hey, it's a clip that never gets old.
Medic.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
When you try to screw with things you don't
God.
know anything about, it's best not to. Oh, BZ.
Oh my God.
You're so harsh and judgmental. Well, as a matter of fact, yes, I am. Then I have this video. I'm gonna pause it to you right now. If you can tell me what the hair this is, then I don't know, throw it in comments or something. Because I mean, I think I know what this is, but it's so over the stupid top. Okay, I'll tell you what I think it is. People are saying that, oh, Tallarico isn't man enough. So here he is, I guess, to prove that he's man enough, because now he's handling a blowtorch. What? Wow. Wow.
I didn't kill anybody. Hey, not bad for a politician.
So if you can tell me the point, and by the way, don't look at that. Don't look at that. You're not meant to see that. You're not meant to look at that. So I repeat, don't look at that. But if you can tell me what was that about, then you're a better man than I, Gunga Din. And then there's another one. This is a test. For the next 15 seconds, this will be a test of the emergency vetting system for muzzies. This is only a test. We will return to normal in a few seconds after the test. Anyway, if you want to find out who your politicians are and where they're coming from, this is the test.
Open your mouth. What test? One bite. Then you pass. No, I cannot. He's Muslim. Deport him.
And that's how you vet politicians in the future. You know, you can laugh at that, or you can take it seriously. And then there's this. I thought initially this was a story from, I don't know, Babylon Bee or The Onion. Apparently it was true. Now, I did go see this movie. I did go to see Spider-Man, The Return, or whatever the hell it's called. And it's actually fairly entertaining. The CG is, you know, like CG is these days. I didn't determine a bunch of DEI woke crap in it, which is why I then determined that it was truly entertaining. Now, because I'm ancient, I get a couple of bucks kicked off. when I go in to see the movies. But here's a story, a screening of Spider-Man, Brand New Day. Okay, that was the name of the thing. Spider-Man Brand New Day was a screening was evacuated after an audience member unleashed a Hulk-sized fart. Apparently, I am very easily entertained. The smell was so unbearable that moviegoers had to leave the theater in disgust. It's one of those things where you can't make that stuff up. Anyway, to everyone who is here tonight, thank you very, very kindly. Thanks for watching SHR. Thanks for watching Earl Big E Jackson on his Mission Ready Men briefing. And it is on the same nights that I am, Tuesday and Thursday night. He's on first at 6 p.m. Pacific. I follow at 8 p.m. Pacific. And same show, that's 11 p.m. Eastern for both and 10 p.m. Central for both. So if you watched Earl before this show, kudos and thanks to you for doing so. And with that, I read some stories today. I decided that it was time to compile this. I don't have any music for it, but it falls into crimes against humanity. Now, I found this story on X. I think it was from Rick, if I'm not mistaken. And again, thanks to Rick for making sure that he simul-streams the show. Remember, do not, if you would please, tax the Rick. But this is a story with words that are really, really tiny, but I'll read it to you. This comes from Canada, and it's about this person, Brigitte Stegeman. And when I say down at the bottom, you are next, well, I am not kidding. You will be next. BZ, whatever are you talking about? As you look at this woman, a Canadian grandmother was euthanized in Canada, in the country, without her consent. An 83-year-old Canadian grandmother was euthanized under the country's Medical Assistance in Dying program, MAID, on July 10th. Brigitte Stegeman was killed despite having previously declined it because of her Christian faith. And her family says she was declined the right to give final verbal consent. Brigitte Stegeman, lovingly known to her family as Gigi, died by lethal injection at the Pearl, a long-time care facility in Belleville, Ontario, where she'd lived for the previous 2 years. She'd been diagnosed with untreatable stage 4 stomach cancer about 5 months earlier. Her granddaughter, also named Brigitte, held legal power of attorney and had served as her primary caregiver and advocate for more than 12 years. Facility staff routinely contacted the granddaughter for decisions about medications and treatments and daily care. Now, about 2 months ago, before her death, Stegeman was asked about medical assistance in dying, the MAID program in Canada. According to her family's public statement, she clearly stated that she did not wish to pursue it. As a devout Christian, she said the practice conflicted with her personal beliefs and faith. She wanted to die naturally. While the granddaughter, listen to this, while the granddaughter was away on a 10-day vacation, facility staff held private discussions with Stegeman about MAID without informing her family or any advocate. The family was never given a clear answer about who initiated these conversations, a very serious concern given Stegeman's diminished capacity, severe hearing impairment. She was completely deaf in her left ear and had very limited hearing in her right, and frequent periods of lethargy and unresponsiveness. When the formal assessment occurred July 6th and 7th, the family described Stegeman's sudden alertness as anomalous after days of near unresponsiveness. During the capacity evaluation, the physician had to repeat questions repeatedly because of her hearing loss. Stegeman repeatedly gave incorrect answers to basic questions about her own life. When asked if she had any siblings, she said she had none, though she was the second youngest of 14 children. She also said of her siblings, they were still alive, even some were, and she had spoken with one the previous week. She became disoriented, began to cry, and said, I forgot about the grandkids, confusing her living siblings with her great-grandchildren. The family corrected the vast majority of her answers, and the granddaughter objected directly, questioning how Stegeman could possibly have been deemed capable of consenting to her own death. Well, the physician explained the procedure in language that the family found euphemistic and misleading for an elderly woman of Stegeman's background, describing it as receiving medication, feeling peace, falling asleep, and promising she would not lose control of her bowels. The family was then ordered to leave the room. The power of attorney holder's request to remain was denied. When the physician emerged, she stated flatly, I have deemed her capable of making her own decisions and informed the family that Stegeman had consented. The procedure was scheduled for July 10th. The family was left shocked and distressed. They later discovered the death date had been set before any official made application paperwork was completed. Facility staff, including the home manager, filled out and witnessed the forms themselves without notifying the power of attorney, despite the family's daily visits. On July 8th, the day was briefly advanced, or the date, I should say, was advanced by a full day simply because the physician had an opening in her schedule. It was convenient. The home manager admitted she had personally completed the paperwork. On the morning of July 10th, the family took Stegeman outside to the patio for fresh air, a scoop of her favorite strawberry ice cream while waiting for her pastor to arrive. Her clear wishes to be surrounded by family and to have her pastor present were treated as secondary to the schedule. I have a schedule to keep. After returning to her room, an intravenous line was inserted amid what the family described as a significant, alarming amount of blood covering Stegeman, the bedding, and the surrounding area. When the physician arrived, Stegeman remained silent, her hands held in a prayer position, and gave no verbal response. The family had been strictly assured that Stegeman would be asked for a final explicit verbal confirmation on the day of the procedure to ensure she still wished to proceed. Tragically, the statement said, we were left alarmed and horrified when the clinical team completely ignored her silence and carried the procedure forward regardless. 83-year-old Stegeman, Brigitte Stegeman, was dead shortly afterwards. In their account, the family described what happened as a systemic failure driven by clinical arrogance, a total lack of transparency, and a blatant disregard for the safeguards meant to protect vulnerable patients. Once a vulnerable patient had explicitly declined MAID because it violated her Christian faith, the facility should never have targeted her for reevaluation behind closed doors while her primary advocate was away. That was intentional, especially when staff had no difficulty contacting the granddaughter daily for routine decisions. The family is now speaking out in the hope that Stegeman's story will serve as a warning and an urgent call for greater clinical transparency, mandatory family inclusion in cognitively vulnerable patients, and strict legal accountability for facilities that operate outside the law. Canada, by the way, legalized medical assistance in dying, MAID, in 2016. In April, or by April 2026, the country had already recorded more than 100,000 euthanasia deaths. Cases like Stegeman's underscore the profound risks the system poses to elderly, hearing impaired, cognitively vulnerable patients whose prior refusals and diminished capacity are overridden in the name of choice. So I bring this to you tonight. Let me take this down and replace it with this. That's Canada. You don't think that's coming here? It may already have arrived in certain states with which I am unfamiliar. But once you get past a certain age, like Rahm Emanuel's brother said, after 70, you're useless. And certainly to communists, you're useless. You are next. Oh, BZ, you're so over the top. Okay, let's wait until you're in your 80s and see if you want to be violated and just outright killed. Now, if that's your decision, you're going to have to do what you're going to have to do on your own time. I'm almost 80. I'm not that far away. And I say, fuck you. And I would have said the exact same thing to anybody who'd walked into my father's room when he was in assisted care, or my grandmother's room when she was in assisted care. And if you'd tried to approach either one of these people with needles for euthanasia, there would have been a fight or a shooting, because at that time I was armed all the time as a law enforcement officer. And if I would have to go to prison for someone attempting to kill one of my family, let the chips fall where they may. Now that's Canada. But I'm here to tell you that is a clarion call for the future. And guaranteed, you, if you get older, are in the sights of euthanasia. Because as globalists and anarchists and people of that ilk say, and Klaus Schwab saying, you're a useless eater. You're not worth anything. And you'll be discarded like a bad bloody Kotex. Next. Soylent Green. Soylent Green is people. Kill. Next. Watch the movie. Here's something else that I think truly personifies crimes against humanity. And I'll make this before we are going to take the breaks tonight until I get tired of them. It's my show after all. Federal judge rules it's fair use for Anthropic to destroy rare books to feed to AI language models. Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, anyone? Bueller? So in the process of educating AI, the people doing so have decided that once fed into the great maw of the AI wolf, then getting rid of the books is fine. What's this about? I'll come back after the break. This is about making sure that indications of past history of writers is all eliminated. Because when the muzzies become in control, or the communists become in control, religion, the opiate of the masses, will be eliminated. And hey, who knows? Wow, what a great thing. You might find yourself being eliminated as well. Impossible, you say?
To the SHR Media Network.
Mission log. Entry. I mean, let's face it, who's even counting anymore? The Lost Wanderer is officially off course, chasing rogue rocket launches, fringe science, and things that probably violate causality. If it burns fuel, bends time, or makes scientists very uncomfortable, yeah, I'm probably going to talk about it. Every other Sunday on KLRN Radio, The Lost Wanderer, because space doesn't come with a roadmap, and honestly, I wouldn't follow if it did.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? You need to check out Mission Ready Men via Earl Big E Jackson on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and noon Eastern. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And I'm back. I'm BZ, first half hour down in the can. The comments are interesting, to say the least. Generally anymore, I don't comment on the comments. Occasionally I will put the comments up so that you can see them. Good luck with that, because we get people from all sorts of shapes and sizes and areas and countries. Sadly, way too many of them are bots, and I have zero interest in culling. Well, if I will cull your ass if you're offensive, I don't mind doing that. If you made ad hominem attacks, I just say I would rather you didn't. But anyway, oh, wait, here we go. I'm saying one of the voices I recognize is AI Slop, not yours specifically. Okay, which one is AI Slop? And you're talking to a pilgrim, asshole. Okay. All right. I don't know what you mean by pilgrim, nor do I really care. But hey, ad hominem, Mr. Boston, all I can say is bye-bye. See ya right when you find work, because you won't be back here. In any event, I was talking about AI deciding that, the ruling from a federal judge that says, yeah, okay, feed all this stuff to AI, like the huge plant in Little Shop of Horrors. Feed me. Books were intended to be read by people. They were intended for human beings. They were not intended for training on machines to replace human thought and ingenuity. And as far as I am concerned, that is most def a what? A crime against humanity. Because the point being, just remove books. Go back to Ray Bradbury's times. Just remove the books. So what's happening also, and again, If you want to find out, BZ's making all this stuff up. If you want to find all the articles and the videos that I used tonight, go to my Rumble channel. There's no space on the YouTube, SHR Media YouTube channel. Anyway, go to my Rumble channel and BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I display all my show links. I don't do it on YouTube. There's no room. Anyway, show links are on my Rumble channel for every show. Go there. And so what is being said is that AI companies are bulk buying rare books, scanning them through high-speed machines that cut the spines off and then shred the originals. A service called ISBN-DB facilitates orders of up to 1 million books and keeps buyers anonymous. Pre-2022 books are premium because they are free of AI-generated text. So your civilization is being removed wholesale in front of your eyes. And also, in terms of a crime against humanity, you'll enjoy this. AI just decided, and this is from leftists' beloved New York Times, so it must be true. This AI just created viruses not found in nature. Scientists trained artificial intelligence on libraries of DNA and then asked the model to create recipes for viral genomes. 16 of them were viable, yielding new viruses. Skynet. AI. Anybody besides me think that this will eventually be the death of humanity? It's already occurring. It's in front of our eyes, and that's why I bring that to you. Read the article. It will be posted. How about another crime of humanity? Look, if it wasn't enough that your mRNA vaccines killed lots of people, like this guy, good old Cuomo in New York, it's like the commie said, I think it was Stalin said, a single death. And then I added, in a nursing facility is a tragedy. 5,000 plus deaths in nursing facilities is a stat. And it's believed that up to 11,000 people died in his nursing homes when he decided that he was going to insert intentionally hot Wuhan 19 infected patients into nursing homes. He said, they didn't have to accept them. If they wanted their funding, they did. The New Jersey governor did that also. Can't think of that shit stick's name. Gavin Newsom did it, but not on the scale of Andrew Cuomo right here. The mass murdering Andrew Cuomo. Because I have a certain affiliation with any number of nursing facilities, I watched my father perish in one. He luckily went home before he did die, then had to go back to the ICU. And I watched my grandmother die in a nursing facility. So I am very well versed, thank you, in the fact that most nursing facilities are understaffed, under-budgeted, under-trained by people that are making piss poor wages and expected to be able to care with everyone. They don't have the equipment, the time, the training, then or now, to deal with Wuhan 19 patients. And you're inserting them into buildings where these people are the very most vulnerable in our entire society. And as I said before, that's not a problem, is it? Of course not. Because you're there if you're elderly to be killed. It's already occurring in Canada. Wow, yippee, great, things, wonderful. Isn't that exciting? Isn't that wonderful? And as a matter of fact, no, it's not. So, if it was cool that we made a vax for Wuhan 19 out of mRNA, won't you be overjoyed to discover that a new kind of flu shot is on the way as the FDA approves Moderna's mRNA vaccine for the flu? Well, hey, kids, if you love thimerosal, if you loved mercury, if you love something tinkering with your DNA, you'll sure as shit love this, won't you? I can see all the leftists palavering to get theirs right now. Get in line, people. The lines to the pits and the lines to the ovens are queuing up right now. These are crimes against humanity. Oh, here's a little mentioned one. You'll also love this. So, a male inmate has received so-called bottom surgery, meaning, it had a give a tit to me, and then it had a give a clit to me, while serving a life sentence for murder at Minnesota's women's prison in Shakopee. So a guy goes in who says he's trans, whatever the hell. Great wig, dude, great Fu Manchu or great goatee. And then at taxpayer cost gets surgery to create whatever the hell doctors think that they're going to make a vagina. And, I guess you could say it's also a remove a dick from me. These are crimes against humanity. Now, this is bad enough. But when you do it with children, 2 children, bad things should happen to you. Without a doubt. Maybe I'll say them a little bit later. But before we get to that, hey, would you possibly think that's part and parcel of this?
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Because there are actually quite a few happy stories to present to you tonight. The Fifth Circuit has upheld the dismissal of an Everytown-backed lawsuit against a Texas law requiring businesses post specific signage to make it extra illegal to carry a gun on their property, saying that nothing about ensuring that law-abiding citizens have notice before being subject to criminal sanctions threatens property rights. Oh, okay, I went to some law classes. Let me translate for some of the leftists in the group. What that means is that was overturned. Okay. So a property owner is not compelled by the criminal statute to post required signage and may post whatever warning he or she desires. And that's been overturned. So frankly, and this is weird, this was in Texas. So bizarre. Overturned. On that note, also, I should care to indicate, this is from The Hill. Federal regulations on firearm silencers, some guns, cannot stand, a judge ruled. So Congress went back and relied on its taxing authority to pass back in 1934 what Second Amendment advocates call the NFA, the National Firearms Act, which, for example, established a $200 fee, a tax basically, to transfer or make certain firearms. But the last year's one big beautiful bill, part of it said that that tax was going to be eliminated, and it was for short-barreled shotguns, short-barreled rifles, and silencers. So now this U.S. District Judge, Wesley Hendricks, said that has constitutional consequences. The law's registration and record-keeping requirements for those guns can't continue because today's NFA does not generate any revenue from untaxed firearms. Its regulatory provisions cannot be upheld under the taxing power, he wrote in a 66-page opinion. Go read this in detail. Oh, BZ, that can't be true. Well, you'll see it. As I say many times, go read it at your leisure. I'm just going to continue with a veritable plethora of happy stories. Here's another happy story that I bet you hadn't heard about. The province of Alberta is they're thinking of trying to secede from Canada and not be subject to all the wacky crap that occurs coming out of Ontario and Ottawa. So this story from the Wall Street Journal, oh no, such a terrible source, BZ. A vote on leaving Canada is the gamble of a lifetime for Alberta's leader. Premier Danielle Smith says she opposes her province breaking away, though she paved the way for a high-stakes referendum. Now, this is an issue of huge import for Canada, and the reason is this. Alberta is essentially the energy mainstay for the entire country. If, for example, Alberta were to secede, most all the energy goes with it. And then the rest of Canada would have to try to scramble or come to some kind of a negotiated conclusion with Alberta if that province broke away. But this indicates they're actually starting to think about it now. That's how bad Canada is getting. Here's also another happy story. This just came out yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. 3 state attorneys subpoena Anthony Fauci over COVID guidance. So let's see. Florida's AG, James Uthmayer, said that he's joining 2 other states in issuing a subpoena to Anthony Fauci, alleging he profited from the recommendations he gave during the handling of the Wuhan 19 pandemic. West Virginia AG is joining in with that, as well as Louisiana's AG. All I can say is that seems like a potentially happy story, and you best follow through with that, because this guy took the fifth 111 times. And we'll have more about him in just a moment. Another happy story. Today, I believe this occurred. Let me look for the date. Yes, as a matter of fact, today, the U.S. Senate panel votes to hold Fauci in contempt of Congress over COVID hearing. Now, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're saying. BZ, what really does that? What difference, Hillary Clinton, what difference does that really make? Well, at first blush, not necessarily so much. It's an interesting step, but like a lot of other things that occur, it borders on a nothing burger and what I call kabuki theater of the absurd. Go look up kabuki theater and go look up French theater of the absurd. And then do as I did and combine them both. So maybe this is significant. Maybe it isn't. Any move against Anthony Fauci, the mass murderer, is a big plus in my instance, in my eyes. Here's also another big plus. The HHS, Health and Human Services, decertifies Kentucky Organ Procurement Organization to protect patients and restore trust. And there were 351 cases where organ donation was authorized, but ultimately not completed at Network for Hope. So this is against an organization called Network for Hope. 103 cases, 30%, showed concerning features, including 73 patients with neurological signs incompatible with organ donation. Some donors may not have been. I read this the first time, and I had to read it again, which is why it's here for you tonight. Some potential donors may not have been deceased at the time that organ procurement was initiated, raising serious questions. Serious questions. Do you think? Here's another happy story. Anything that has to do with this, people that do this should go to prison. They should be buried under the prison. Justice Department secures agreement with Connecticut Children's to end pediatric gender-affirming care. BZ's thought, because he worked child abuse for many years in detectives, is Leave the kids alone. Just like Pink Floyd says, leave the kids alone. Now, if you're over 21 and you want to do whatever to you and your body, that's fine. That's between you and whatever surgeon is going to fleece the fuck out of you. That's nifty. But I do not take well to the mental, chemical, and physical butchery of children. And that's what this is about. It's not gender affirming care. It's a bunch of medical institutions deciding, like doctors and hospitals and organizations of that ilk, that they're going to make a shit ton of money butchering kids because it makes them feel better because of the euphemism gender affirming care. Don't you feel more pleasanter because of gender affirming care? You should. Why you don't? You ignorant people. I don't understand. Here's another happy story. And this will most definitely be in the Rumble side. I can see it at this rate. Man, I'm not going to get to the bulk of the stuff that I wanted to, which is okay, because there's either Sunday night, if I decide to have a Sunday night saloon, and or maybe roll it over to next Tuesday. Now, last Tuesday, see, I'm backed up like a bad cloaca. I'm backed up because I didn't have my show on Tuesday night because the internet was out. Just a bit of irony. The construction company that's building its buildings down the street about a quarter mile or so was trenching, and in the process of trenching, trenched the crap out of the internet, out of the cabling. So then my internet was out. So that's why, kids, that's why I'm backed up right now. So I'm going to put this on. This is a happy story. And oddly enough, these things are weird. They're just linked. So if you want to find out where many flock cameras, and this is constantly updated, you might want to update it with the things that you find yourselves. But if you want to find at least one place, which is a repository of flock cameras, go to here. And it's the Flock Hopper. The site is called don'tgetflocked.com. It also will be in the article section of my show on Rumble. So if you want to find out, as far as these people know, where the flock cameras are located, just for informational purposes, go there. Don'tgetflocked.com. That's a happy story, isn't it? Isn't it? Or it could be. Wait a minute. This is weird. This is a happy story too. Every flock camera was stolen in a Minnesota town, in a teeny weeny Minnesota town, as bans erupt nationwide. The Winona Police Department in the winky town of Winona, Minnesota, close to the Wisconsin border, discovered Saturday that all of the city's flock cameras were missing. I wonder if they went to the site that I referred to earlier. BZ doesn't know. This, who knows? Here's another happy story. And this is a happy story because of the results that occur following. This is from the New York Post. President Trump's crackdown on H-1B visa abuse sends Dallas home prices skyrocketing. You would think skyrocketing. Oh no, way down. So there's a mass tech layoff going on. Hey, that wouldn't be because of AI, would it? So it's tending to cool the Texas suburbs down a little bit and other parts of the country. And you know what? I wonder if that's the point. So Indian tech workers, when they came here on H-1B visas, and we discovered that they were not quite so proficiently technically trained as was prior assumed, they kicked up and skyrocketed the prices of houses around Dallas, and they're gone. And housing correction is already underway. See, because the dealio was all those suburbs where those houses are, north of Dallas, they were ground zero for one of the biggest housing booms in America. Subdivisions just basically exploded. Prices soared because of that as well. Builders couldn't build homes fast enough. And you get rid of the trash, and look, good things happen. As far as I'm concerned, that's a happy story. Oh, PZ, we need more H-1B visas. Right, because AI is adding more jobs everywhere to everyone. Here's another happy story. This dude, Sri Thanadar, Apache, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. He was fighting for his political life, and he got crushed just this week. That's so sad. And now he's going to have to go back to various wig makers, and he's going to have to, I don't know, maybe he can make commercials for good toupee makers and eyebrow pencil for that guy. No problem. Anyway, I'm sorry, wrong voice. I'm the hardest working member of Congress. I have nearly 100% voting record. Nobody votes more consistently than I do in the U.S. Congress from this city and the town. Say goodbye to Shri. Goodbye to Shri. See you later, monsieur. Here's another happy story. Oh no, Cori Bush's primary loss further hurts Black women's chances for representation in Congress. Note to these people, a note to you folks, note to selves, note to everyone else. You know what might work? Try running good candidates. Try running people that have knowledge, that aren't Black female racists, and you might have a better chance at doing that. So she will not be returning to Congress because Wesley Bell, in the heated primary for Missouri's 1st congressional district, well, she lost. So sad. Goodbye. Bye-bye to Cori Bush. And here's another happy story. I might be able to get to the next one or maybe another one after that. And then there'll be the break at the top of the hour and we'll come back. Dad poses as an 11-year-old daughter on TikTok, as his daughter on TikTok, and lures her alleged rapist home to shoot him. This is one of the happiest of stories I saw today. An Ohio dad pretended to be his 11-year-old daughter on TikTok so he could lure her alleged rapist to his house where he shot him twice. Diego Montoya Gonzalez, no inkling as to whether or not he's an illegal invader or not, dunno. 20, was shot by the dad, Malik Chandler, who was 31 in July after the 11-year-old's mother discovered a video on their daughter's phone that showed this guy sexually assaulting the girl at their Grove City, Ohio home. Dad, never met you, don't know your picture, don't know you at all, but I gotta say, kudos to you from BZ. You should get the Ellie Nessler Award. Again, folks, look that up. And then, well, you know what? These two stories are linked together. They're both happy stories. So tell you what, let's take a break. And it's time to go to the electric winkle chamber, whatever you would like. Let's take a break and let's come right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Listen in to the Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a show equipped for bombast. Tune in Mondays and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. Pacific, featuring a refreshing dose of reality. Jersey Joe fearlessly tackles the tough topics with no nonsense. Just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com, where you can hear the Reaver of common sense in action. He may not always be polite. He may not always be refined. But one thing's for sure. He always tells it like it is.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? Then check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, passion.
Are you looking for bold, honest conversation about the issues shaping America? Well, let me welcome you to Unleash 101 with Jeremy Hansen, where we take you beyond the headlines. We dive into politics and culture, the struggles of everyday life. It's raw, real, and unfiltered. If you're ready for truth with a punch, pull up a chair and join us. That's right, Unleashed 101, where real talk feels like home. Find us at unleashed101.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more. We look forward to seeing you. Unleashed 101 with Jeremy Hansen.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional. But it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And I'm back. It's the end of the first hour. It is 9:03 p.m. Pacific. It is 11:03 p.m. Central. It is midnight 03 on the eastern seaboard of us. And it's 1749.723 drawer 4 subgrowth cluster 17 in Bolivian time, but I don't know. I could never quite understand Bolivian time. It doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense to me. Tonight, the story goes like this. I'm talking about Fauci, fires, and freedom. And I also got a little bit lit up earlier, so I included some of this, crimes against humanity, of which Fauci is an involved individual. We spoke about the carousel of amusing GURP. I had a bunch of happy stories. I have a conclusion for two. And then with luck, fingers crossed, I should be able to get to, hey, freedom. You know, the thing that may not be in our future due to communism and the DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America, who aren't. Oh, no, kids, they're full-blown they're communists. Okay. And I have numerous instances of them saying exactly that. If you've been watching the show, you've been seeing them. And go back to the various shows that I had prior on Rumble and look at the links. Go through and look at where it says more and then scroll down and you'll see show links and check all the show links that are down below. You'll see a whole bunch of them. with many, 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 many references. And I'm going to finish up happy stories now. And there's one story broken into two pieces, which goes like this. Hey, look, kids. Zoran Mamdani won't let you buy food at his store without government ID. Oh, no, not just any ID, you know, maybe a library card or, you took a bus trip one time, or you took a Carnival cruise, or you fell off the deck of a Carnival cruise and got a soggy ID just for the cruise itself. Embossed, embedded in plastic. No, that won't do it. You have to have government ID. But wait, isn't the biggest question resulting from that? Well, wait, how are the married women gonna manage to eat in these food deserts all around New York? And we all know they're gonna work, aren't they? Won't they work? Sure, they're gonna work because of this. Anyone remember? Because Beezy actually has a memory despite looking at him. And Bob Dole has a memory. Boy, that came out of nowhere. Bob Dole, third person. City-backed Kansas City grocery store closes despite millions in taxpayer dollars and funding being pissed away. Well, who do you think is going to fund these grocery stores in New York City for the poor, poor New York City people? Who's going to fund it? Well, it'll be the government, right? Because as we all know, New York State and New York City, they can print their own money, can't they? Sure they can. And, well, what happens then? You know, the Beezy's logical extension. What happens then if their tax base starts to go hasta la vista, baby, like they are? Well, let's go back, shall we, to August of 2025. And there was, if you recall, a city-run grocery store in Kansas City proper that was propped up by more than only 18 million taxpayer dollars that you folks in Kansas City paid for, came directly out of your wallets. And it closed. And it was called, oh, don't you feel bad? It's called Sun Fresh Market. And that should be an inspiration to all, because doesn't that sound like a great place where you'd want to go and get your groceries? Okay, so it opened in 2018 in the Linwood Shopping Center, and it got a multi-million-dollar renovation budget as part of the city's big old hanging revitalization efforts on the east side. And then, whoa, after months of bare shelves, severe crime problems that Kansas City spent, oh yeah, that's right, additional taxpayer dollars to curb. And what one reporter described as a very bad rancid odor connected to improper drain maintenance, Sunfresh has shut its doors. Doesn't that kind of remind you of the guy in the Spider-Man movie in the first hour? Yeah, I know it does me. So this is what you have to look forward to, kids, in New York City. And do you think it's going to be free? No. If you pay even the slightest amount of tax, you're paying for this. Oh, and by the way, bring ID. And now we're going to be talking about the Fauci aspect of this. Now that I've gotten through happy stories and I've gotten through, the crimes against humanity, which I hadn't anticipated going there tonight. So I had to rewrite a whole bunch of the show. I don't really rewrite the show. I just install tabs in different places because these are my tabs. This is my gun. There is no other like it. This is my show. There is no other like it. Well, Fauci, that little darn guy himself, Fauci decided that I'm the most transparent guy in the world. Trust me. Trust the medicine. Trust the science. I'm right here to consult with, and I will speak extemporaneously at any time. I am transparent as hell. Just ask him. That's what he said. Except we go back and remember, COVIDs are going to kill you standing up. Oh, they did. But remarkably, if you went to a restaurant, and I'm sure you all remember this, you could sit down. COVIDs can't kill you sitting down. And that's why you could remove your mask in order to eat. And also remember this bad little niggling fact. The COVID survival rate for kids was over 99.9%. So who did we lock down? That's right, all the kids in schools. And if they had the technology available, they could Zoom. And then when they Zoomed classes, that's when parents discovered the literal crap that was being taught to their kids. So who died from COVID? And that would be people who already had bad bugs, who were already immunocompromised, who didn't have natural immunity, and they were compromised medically in any number of ways, and perhaps in ways that they hadn't known. Now, do I know anybody who died of Wuhan 19? I do not. But there are lots of other people who did. Hey, remember being able to say goodbye to your grandmother and your grandfather when they perished, and being there with them as they died? No, you don't remember that because that didn't happen. And so this little mass murderer took the fifth 111 times because he could. Let's talk about this. I'm going to remind people of this. Now, as of August 1st, 2021, immunization, the basics, essentially, maybe I can make this bigger, or maybe I can't. They changed the definition of terms for what makes a vaccine and what it does between August 1st, 2021, and also on November the 3rd of 2021. The CDC changed the definition of terms so that vaccines that may not have been doing much of anything, you would believe them. And you would say, okay, well, I don't know the vaccine terms and definitions changed, but I certainly believe that Fauci is God. I'd like to remind you also of this. Fauci's diary, all 1,100 pages of it. Go to my last show in Rumble and you'll find the link to that. I don't have it available with me right now, but you can find it. It's out there in the interwebs. Fauci's diary says he privately put COVID's fatality rate at 0.2 to 0.3%. And so under oath, what did he tell Congress? Oh, no, it was 10 times the flu. So February 8th, for example, 2020, in his private diary, case fatality rate more like 0.2% to 0.3%. March 10th, on Hannity says, the mortality for this is about 2 to 2.5%. It's probably lower than that, closer to 1%. But even if it's 1%, it's 10 times more lethal than the seasonal flu. Kids, go back. Do you remember how many people used to customarily die in the seasonal flu? But it didn't matter. It wasn't a big thing. Nobody made a big deal out of it. It was up to 60,000 people per year in the U.S., just in the U.S., died of the flu, the seasonal flu. March 27th on the Daily Show, Fauci said the mortality of this is about 10 times the flu. And he wrote in the journal again, 0.2, 0.3. All right. No big deal, right?
The mortality for seasonal flu is 0.1. The mortality for this is about 2.5%. It's probably lower than that. It's probably closer to 1. But even if it's 1, it's 10 times more lethal than the seasonal flu. You got to make sure that people understand that. The seasonal flu that we deal with every year has a mortality of 0.1%. The stated mortality overall of this, when you look at all the data, including China, is about 3%. It first started off as 2 and now 3.
Okay, we should always rely on China, shouldn't we? Because that's where this came from, kids. And so RFK Jr., say what you will about him. He's tough to listen to. Okay, he's got some kind of, I used to know what it was called, but his voice has a tremor to it. Okay, fine. This guy has studied this stuff. And that's why he is in the position that he currently occupies. And now he's going to say, I don't think I'm going to play the whole thing. But he says, Fauci had a problem with early treatments like ivermectin. And so let's listen and hear what he has to say.
Tony Fauci's problem is this. There's a little known federal law that says you cannot give an emergency use authorization to a vaccine.
Remember when you heard the term EULA, E-U-L-A, that's an emergency use license agreement.
If there is any medication approved for any purpose that is shown effective against the target disease. So if Tony Fauci or anybody had admitted that hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin are effective against COVID, it would have been illegal for them to give the emergency use authorizations.
Stop. Do you see what happened just there? So when people, as BZ has said, for decades, when people say, it's not about the money, it's about the money.
To the vaccines, and they could never have gotten them approved. And it would have been, a 200 billion enterprise that would have collapsed.
That is fascinating. I mean, I have been covering this very closely now for all of the 2 years. That's the first I've heard.
No, it's not fascinating. It's a pandemic. It was released from the Wuhan labs. Citizens in Wuhan, China were welded into their apartments. China, via Xi Jinping, stopped all flights going into and out of Wuhan, stopped those flights in China, but let flights from China, from Wuhan, go out on an international level. Oh no, BZ, no, that wasn't intentional at all, was it? Let's go back just a bit. Fauci funded a technique to hide evidence of genetic engineering. 4 years ago, RFK made a terrible, horrible accusation that got him shadow banned on social media and got him fact-checked and dismissed as a crank. Stop right there. Hey, if you're on Facebook, if you're on X, if you're on any other social media, I have a question that I'm positing to you. Where'd all the fact checkers go? Remember, everything was fact checked. Everything. So then Fauci's personal diaries go public. And then Tulsi Gabbard's last day document dump. And Ralph Barrick stripped of his NIH grants and placed on leave by the UNC. And Fauci appearing under subpoena with a Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee and saying, I take the fifth 111 times. But that's no problem. Okay? That may have led to problem. Also, did anybody besides me wonder, how did all these nurses have time to dance? in the wake of what they were screaming was the callousness of all the deaths in their ERs. So, I got to ask, I got to add, how did this happen? By the way, did you happen to see the drone in the background? Because it's important when you make a video that you get a viewpoint in an ER with masked dancing nurses, that you get it from an aerial view as you follow your drone around, because these are happy times. Wasn't one of the first things that you thought when you saw this crap was, if you're so stricken, get back to fucking work? That was one of my first thoughts, but no, not necessarily. And so remember, Fauci also said, I didn't tell anybody to close schools. Really? Do we possibly have Fauci in his own words?
They always come back and say Fauci was responsible for closing schools. I had nothing to do. Let's get down to the facts. They always come back and say Fauci was responsible for closing schools. I had...
At his behest. And then people in leftist states and communities were falling all over themselves to adhere to what it was that he said, because it became a giant political game. Let me, if I may, remind you of a few things. There is a gentleman who has his own show. He was on my show one time. He's way busy, wrapped up in his own show. But his wife apparently acquired Wuhan 19. And he's in Fresno, California. Sorry. And his wife contracted that, went to a Fresno hospital, and the doctors were going to put her on remdesivir. And this gentleman said in no uncertain terms, you are not going to put her under remdesivir, because the people so placed are those essentially first to die. Plus, remdesivir is only $5,000 the shot. And guess what? His wife emerged from the hospital. Far as I'm concerned, that's a good thing. Okay, so what were we right about? I'd like to go into reminder mode and tell people this. Okay, ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine worked. Remdesivir, as I just indicated, was and still is a killer of human beings. mRNA jabs are dangerous. I have so many videos on that. I keep telling myself I should assemble a show simply about Wuhan 19. There is so much information out there that no one wants to hear, no one wants to know about. Masks were a ridiculous joke, as Fauci himself once admitted on video. 6 foot social distancing, if you remember that, was a myth. It was a hoax. Someone, and no one knows specifically who, directly created out of the ozone and out of the air, reached up and grabbed, okay, 6 feet social distancing. Yeah, we're going to do it. And then all the states, cities, and counties said something similar to, okay, we're going to do that, like the retards that they are. Lockdowns were worth less. It still spread because it's a pandemic. It was released. Remember that people got these massively long, whatever the hell they were, swabs jammed into your nosulus? That was fun, and people were lining up in their cars for hundreds of cars to get this thing jammed up their nose and tested. Yes, you're clean. Yes, you're not. I never did, and I never took the shot. I'm 76. Guess what? I'm still here. I must have immunity in some fashion, because if you look at me, I'm the poster child for comorbidities, and I have a ton of them still present after all this time, after 2020, actually in slightly better health, which is a weird anomaly. So lockdowns were ridiculous. They were pointless. PCR tests, if you remember, were about 85% false, indicating not a real infection. The case fatality rate was low. COVID came from the NIH-funded Wuhan lab in China. Why? Because the United Snakes of America had already told Anthony Fauci that you can't conduct legally gain of function tests within the United States. Well, if I can't do it here and I want to do that, where should I go? I know I'll go to the communists, because who doesn't love a good communist pandemic? Fauci funded the gain of function labs. He lied about everything. If his lips moved, he was lying. He lied to profit himself. He harmed you in order to increase his ego, which was massive. He was the highest paid federal employee ever in the history of the federal government. It was all about money, power, and control. As I said in the first hour, when people say something similar to it's not about the money, it's always about the money. This guy deserves to wear some little orange jumpers with like little infants with the little flap in the back and the two buttons. So this guy, I'll put this up, is named Tom Elliott. And he said, you know what? Here's weird. Here's something weird. And the link, you will see the link that I will provide over in Rumble for everybody. And, because I like to have some credibility as, you're making this stuff up out of whole cloth. No, I'm not. Guy named Tom Elliott on X said, I found more than 10 instances where Anthony Fauci was warned about the safety of COVID shots. And every time his reaction is the same: suggest the data is invalid, attack the scientists' motives, or simply ignore it altogether. So on April 12th, 2021, for example, then CDC Director Walensky calls Fauci at about 10 p.m. about the J&J pause, Johnson & Johnson, 6 clotting cases, all women between the ages of 18 and 48, 1 dead, 2 in the ICU. Fauci's next diary entry is about a Daily Mail story concerning his old high school. He never mentions the warning signal, even in his diary. I don't know. Doesn't that seem kind of weird? Kind of strange. Here's something that I would like you to read. Definitely. I simply don't have the time here. We're going to take a break at the bottom of the hour. Final break. And it's pretty clear that the show tonight was supposed to be about Fauci and fires and freedom. Looks to me like I may get to some of the fires. I'm not going to get to the commies in the room tonight. I know there are tears rolling down your face right now. This is a story that I'm going to put up in Rumble in links. And it's by, again, Tom Elliott. And every embarrassing example of Fauci fluffing his own ego. This is so lengthy that I do not have the temerity or the time to address this at all. But it will be up, and I would like you to read it. Because for those who say, well, where's your evidence? Where are your links? Where are your articles? Et cetera, et cetera. I provide those things. Here's something else that I will get into briefly when we come back. Now, I'm BZ. We're going to take a break, and I will be back for the final half hour.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
In a world where leftists are running out of metal for the safety pins of their soothing red diapers, one man stands alone, attempting to fundamentally change America, one leftist diaper at a time. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, is guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat leftists and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Listen to BZ Saloon on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, and 11 p.m. Eastern on the SHR Media YouTube channel, Twitch, KLRN, Rumble, and X at BZ Saloon. It's one great late-night conservatarian talk radio show. Be there. Aloha.
Hello, friends. You have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name is Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
It's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Just like the Bidens, I too am moving. Only in my case, it's days and times. That's right. You can now find the Edge of Liberty Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 Eastern on the SHR Media Network. Join me as we talk politics, news, alcohol, fun, not so much fun, clowns, small kittens, large kittens, dogs, amoebas, and anything else that just pops into my mind while I'm on the air. That is Monday and Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast, on YouTube, X, KLRN Radio, Facebook, Twitch, and anywhere else a good podcast is found. Please check out our website, shrmedia.com. I will see you live on the air.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being, and in the good that comes from exercising these rights well. The founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey kids, sorry about the cough. I just inhaled a fur ball. So, last half hour of the show. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. It's 9:34 Pacific. It's 11:34 Central and midnight 0:34 on the Eastern Seaboard. Your being here graces me. I am very happy for your presence here tonight. And to remind everyone, I will be back Tuesday and Thursday nights of next week because my internet has been repaired. It's back. Huzzah, huzzah. Thanks to the construction company for trenching my internet away on Tuesday, but they repaired it, and now we're happy little campers. We're talking about tonight, and sadly, I'll be getting just to this fashion. Look, that's Anthony Fauci. He's laughing at you because he's untouchable and nothing is going to happen to him. Tonight's show was going to be about Fauci, fires, and freedom. I'll get to the other two. I'll get to the fires. I'll get to the freedom. Apparently, it may not be tonight because I was distracted when I found more crap in terms of crimes against humanity. Wait a minute. First one tonight. And I'm telling you, if there is a crime against humidity, I didn't cause it, but there are crimes against humanity. Move along, BZ. Don't draw attention to that. Was that Freudian? I'm not sure. Let's go back, if we will, kids, to about, I don't know, say 2002, 2003, the early 2000s. And this is an aspect of Fauci that people just don't seem to remember or don't want to remember or didn't know that it existed at the time. This story will also be in the show links under Rumble. Anthony Fauci's guinea pig kids in New York City, in which innocent foster care children were used like little lab rats, like little petri dishes to test experimental HIV and AIDS drugs in partnership with Anthony Fauci's NIH, in partnership with Pfizer, and in partnership with GlaxoSmithKline, resulting in the deaths of innocent infants. Oh no, BZ, that can't be true. All the children were under the legal guidance of the city's Child Welfare Department, the Administration for Children's Services. Most lived in either foster care or independent homes run on behalf of the local authorities, and they were in New York City. And the BBC identified pharmaceutical giant GlaxoSmithKline and Pfizer as two of the pharmaceutical companies that provided the experimental drugs for the test. Oh, I should also care to point out that those companies are owned by BlackRock and Larry Fink, who has $1 billion with a B invested in the various platforms. And of course, with Fink, mostly BlackRock, owning 93% of the consumer goods that are sold in America, most everything is owned by, let's see, there are three at least. Gosh, BZ, get your brain on. BlackRock, Vanguard, and well, I don't know why I can't think of the third, but those are at least the two. So a pregnant woman in Tennessee died in 2003 after she enrolled in the NIH-funded research in hopes of saving her soon-to-be-born son from getting AIDS. And a review found that the doctors continued to administer an experimental drug regimen despite signs of liver failure. Come on. What's a failing liver between friends and GlaxoSmithKline? Nothing. At least 10 children in a pediatric AIDS drug study died when an investigation concluded that was a death toll significantly higher than expected and explained. You don't remember that, do you? No. That's because that's my job to bring it home to you. Hey, here's the lovely Dana Bash. And she and Fauci used to explain emails because if there ever were a Fauci girl, it's got to be Dana Bash.
You are seen to many as a superhero, but you are a human being, and you've been working nonstop since all of this began, communicating with the public, trying to get a handle on this pandemic in terms of the science. So how do you keep yourself going in the face of all of this death and disease?
You know, Dana, it's really just focusing on the enormity of the problem and the fact that I do have a role in the response to this problem. And whenever that happens, you've got...
Let's see. My first thought was, could you have possibly crafted a bigger, fluffier, more pillowy softball question than that? And the answer is no, I don't. By the way, I'm sure Fauci gowned up and got in on the front lines, exposing himself for the benefit of all mankind. No, never.
The focus like a laser beam on what the goal is to end this terrible outbreak that we're going through. And I don't really, you don't have time for feeling sorry for yourself.
Because he's so busy, making sure that others, I almost said something that I really shouldn't have said. And by the way, did you folks ever hear of this? I bet you didn't. I'm going to say something to you, and you're going to say immediately, that is the world's most naked, bald lie that I have ever heard you say on the air, BZ. Dr. Fauci, directly connected to NIAID bankrolled experiments, grafting aborted baby scalps onto lab rats. Okay, here's where I'm going to give you time to get shocked. Shocked, I tell you. Shocked. So taxpayer funding used that money of aborted babies' body parts as raw material for animal grafts enabled by NIAID without, I don't know, could you call that ethical security? Maybe. So he spent $400,000 to conduct these secret experiments, transplanting scalps of aborted feti onto living rats. BZ, really?
Where they were taking the scalps of 5-month-old aborted babies and they were grafting them onto lab rats and lab mice to see how much longer they could keep them growing for. And you can actually see the photographs in the published study of little baby scalps grafted onto the backs of lab rats, growing little baby hairs. Those would have been the little hairs growing on the heads of little infants in Pittsburgh if they hadn't been killed by abortion and then stitched onto lab rats for experimentation. This study was funded.
Well, see, aborted kids are finally good for something, aren't they? This is all the leftists right now going, oh, God, this is great. This is wonderful.
By a grant, by multiple grants from the NIAID office, which is run by Dr. Anthony Fauci. And when I was undercover, Planned Parenthood abortion providers told me that they were the ones who were supplying the aborted baby body parts for experiments at the University of Pittsburgh.
But that's okay, right? That's fine. It's just a scientist just experimenting. And then there was this. I was thinking about putting this into the happy story aspect of it all, but no. And anybody remember when Fauci went cruising around in a neighborhood? I don't remember which neighborhood, but it was, I think, mostly Black Americans. And isn't this weird that a lot of Black Americans decided they weren't going to take the vax? They had, I guess, what you could call suspicions about that. And here's someone speaking to Dr. Fauci, and this was pretty cool. Let's listen. It's about 2 minutes. I might play all of it.
The people in America are not settled with the information that's been given to us right now. So I'm not going to be lining up taking a shot.
Okay, stop. I know who that is. That's Mayor Bow Wow in D.C. So that reminds me, it refreshes my memory that this is Mayor Bowser in D.C., accompanied by the august Anthony Fauci.
On a vaccination for something that wasn't clear in the first place. And then you all create a shot in miraculous time. It takes years to create vaccination.
Well, it used to take years.
Okay, it used to.
You know how many years were invested in this approach? About 20 years of science to get us to be
the science. Dun dun dun.
Years is not enough.
The medicine. Dun dun dun.
And 9 months is definitely not enough for nobody to be taking no vaccination that you all came up with.
The only reason I'm talking to you right now, as close as we are, is that I've been vaccinated.
Right.
But if it allows thousands of people like you don't get vaccinated, you're going to let this virus continue to percolate in this country and in this world.
Something like the common flu. That
Yeah. And it could, like Bowser said, it could percolate all around the country.
Right.
And not like
It's
the
much
common
more
flu.
serious than the flu.
Well, the flu kills a lot of people annually too.
You know how many people died of the flu the last year? I mean, not this year, virtually none, but the previous year, about 20 to 30,000. You know how many people have died from COVID-19 in the United States? 600,000 Americans.
Well, the number that you all giving that died, that's once again, that's you all's number.
You gonna pass?
Yeah.
He's going to pass. Now, some people, and I'm sure Anthony Fauci and certainly Mayor Bowser are looking at this guy and saying, you're about the most ill-educated guy that I think I've seen, because we didn't expect this. This was absolutely unanticipated. And how dare you have the temerity to attempt to talk back to God Emperor Fauci, which that guy did, because maybe he doesn't trust him. And I had to make sure that I get to this. Remember Fauci last week, 111 times. Fifth, I take the fifth. BZ takes the vodka, he takes the fifth. Anyway, Fauci in 2022, anybody remember when he said, I'm happy to testify before any congressional committee. I have nothing to hide. Really? Okay, go.
Well, if I become a punching bag, I'm a punching bag, but I am very happy to testify before any congressional oversight committee. I have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
I can explain and validate everything that I've done. So, it's going to be inconvenient if they actually are out there essentially threatening to make my life miserable, but I'm going to do what I need to do, and that is cooperate fully, because we have nothing to hide at all.
So that's cooperating fully, taking the fifth 111 times. Apparently somebody sat there and went, ding, 1, ding, 2. It's also interesting that from Mediaite, there's a NYU School of Law professor by the name of Ryan Goodman, who said that, Fauci's decision that he's going to invoke the fifth during that hearing could potentially put him in kind of a worse position. And Fauci invoked that protection, like I said, over 100 times. And in the process of doing so, Aaron Burnett said on CNN, I wonder what the legal strategy of that, and his refusal to answer. Now, somebody said 111 times, somebody else said 112 times, whatever. Goodman said, I think it makes it worse. He said, it's even a curious way in which you wonder what his legal advice was, why they decided to do that, because he does not face criminal jeopardy for the pardon. In all likelihood, he's pardoned for all actions before January 2025. But that also means that you're forced to testify. So then to plead the fifth is actually, he could then be held in contempt. There could be theoretically at least a Justice Department that goes after him for not answering when he's not really facing criminal charges. Said no leftist whatsoever anywhere. It's all just the most bizarre stuff. By the way, that thing where I was talking about the mice, BZ, you don't happen to have any more of that, do you?
We have learned that U.S. coronavirus researchers at UNC shipped, quote, humanized or transgenic mice to China by around 2017 for use in their dangerous coronavirus work. Under your NIAID coronavirus, researchers also used aborted baby body parts in mice research, and taxpayers paid for them to do that. NIH-funded coronavirus researcher Dr. Ralph Berserk and his colleagues at UNC put parts of livers, thymuses, and chunks of human...
Okay, stop. Just looking at the body language, he's very uncomfortable. He does not want to be here, obviously. He doesn't want to have to answer to any authority whatsoever. The only authority is himself, God Emperor Fauci. And that you would deign to question him, you lowly, ignorant slut, you prole, you serf, how dare you question me? How dare you question the science? And how dare you question the medicine? I have said what I need to say. That is it. That's all that needs to be said, period.
Human fetal lung that they got from aborted, almost 5-month-old human babies. They put those parts in their research mice. They disgustingly named them BLTL mice and wrote they had created a, quote, sandwich of aborted body parts in the mice. Get it, folks? BLT.
Because who doesn't like a good bit of humor when you're talking about dead aborted babies? Most everybody does. There was more, of course.
Can you do me a favor in the audience and stand up if during the time of the COVID pandemic, you were called a racist for calling the virus a Wuhan virus or the China virus? If you thought the 6-foot rule was total crap, if you thought the vaccine wasn't something that you should take, if you thought it was outrageous the way the mask policy was rolled out, if you were fired from your job for not taking that vaccine, including members of the military, if you thought closing schools was catastrophically stupid, and that you thought that during these times saying these things made you somehow a lesser human being.
Do you remember that, folks? Do you remember laboring under all of that? Do you remember being belittled? Do you remember being taken off social media like I was for just asking questions, for daring to posit a question or two and not take everything by rote?
Dr. Fauci, can you just turn around and look at the people behind you?
No, he's not.
You're not willing to do that?
Nope, he's not going to do it.
That's not a question. It's not a question. To your lawyer, it's not a question. It's a request. All you have to do is look up from your lawyers and look at the people who were absolutely shamed for saying what we know now to be the truth. You can't even look at them?
Nope, not going to do it.
It was about 6 years ago today that I decided I'm going to give up my businesses, sell them all, run for office, run for the United States Senate. Here I am sitting in front of you 6 years later saying, who the fuck do you think you were for doing that? It is a total disgrace.
Wuhan 19, enabled by Anthony Fauci, comma, mass murderer, comma, killed huge portions of this society and people. You were probably affected by people's deaths. I guess I was lucky insofar as I wasn't. But we all remember the lockdown, the humiliation. People lost their jobs. People lost businesses. Their children lost education. They lost contact. You know, the kids, the most able to fend off this, the people that made them stay away from classrooms were the teachers and the teacher associations, who they themselves were afraid. And because they feared, because they were told to fear, their TVs told them to fear and to obey, your children were ripped apart for a couple of years. They won't get that time back. People lost businesses, lost families, lost friends. They were crushed. Don't remember that at all? I'm sure you do. I'm sure you very much do. I saw it all around. When there were businesses that required you to wear a mask, unless it was absolutely critical, and it seldom was, I didn't go in. I can remember going to some stupid Chinese restaurant on Florin Road, and you have to wear a mask to come in. Okay, then I turned around and walked out. And I said to myself and to Mrs. BZ, I'm not doing it. Hey, here's something really weird. You know what also happened? 4 people, 4 families that were waiting in line to go in when I walked out said, you know what? I'm not doing this either. And then those families walked out. They were waiting to go inside when they were told, nope, no mask, you can't. Walked out, and we all said, I'm not buying this. I'm not buying this anymore. I'm not submitting, especially in this Chinese restaurant. I'm not kowtowing to you. Yeah, it's a private business, BZ, and it's my ability to go and leave. And that's what I did in many instances. And yet it crushed America. Also, I think I got time for one more video. And how do you hide human fingerprints on lab created bugs? Well, let's listen to what RFK says. Is it possible? Yeah, it is.
Tony Fauci can still say what I'm doing is for medical purposes. We're developing these things, and then we're going to develop defenses against them. He funded one study that put the lie to all of that. He funded Ralph Barrett to develop a technique called seamless ligation. And that is a technique for hiding the engineering project. So you could, normally when you do that kind of engineering, you can see it and you can say that bug was created in a lab. He developed a way of hiding all traces that was developed. And he taught that to the Chinese scientists, to Xing Liji. And that, there is no public health. It is the opposite of what you would do if you were interested in public health. It's the opposite. If you're interested in public health, you would make sure that any kind of tampering you did like that had red flags all over it that says, we made this thing.
Stop. Why do we need gain of function research? What is gain of function? Gain of function means making it more lethal. For whom are we making this more lethal? Well, it was already proscribed in the United States. The only other place that was available that would take Dr. Fauci, because he's similar to Gerald Bull, I'm going to do it because I can. And so he went at the behest of Communist China, funded the Wuhan lab through all sorts of various cutouts in order to have the Chinese help with gain of function. I will end this show by saying one thing as I take this off. You cannot convince, and I still have more things to talk about. I'm not going to go into overtime tonight. I'll come back either Sunday night, maybe Sunday night, to finish the rest of this stuff. You cannot convince me, and I will end the show on this. You cannot convince me that the goal of China, remember when businesses, one of them was 23andMe. There were 2 others, I believe. Some of these went out of business also, where they would take your DNA and your DNA was held, and they would tell you something about your DNA and your background. Anybody remember when that was sold? And who was purchasing a good portion of that? It would be Communist China. Why would Communist China attempt to purchase as much, say, American DNA as they could? Because we were stupid enough to gather it from you, the public, and then sell it to China. What would they possibly be using that for? Let me make it clear. You cannot convince me that China is not in the process now and will be in the future creating some kind of a virus from all the DNA that they have acquired, not just through the US, but I'm sure they've acquired some through any number of other countries, in order to ensure that they create a monster virus which somehow leaves the Chinese genome and DNA inviolate. In other words, it will kill everyone else, but they will have crafted that monster bug to the point where everyone else dies. China, we live. That's it. That's the end of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network, on X, on Twitch, on Rumble, as I've said before, and the munificently grandiose KLRN Don't Tax the Rick, and lots of other bulbous podcast locales. As I am wont to say, hey, promotional consideration by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, also by Shure and Electro Voice microphones, the one I use, my mixer made by Arrakis, and also thanks to the Pratt & Whitney Engine Company, who have created dependable engines yielding thrust you can trust. Tiaras would customarily be by My Little Pony, but my tiara tonight is oh so plain. It's just a British driving cap. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I shall be consorting in less than 10 minutes. I want to thank everybody for being here. You know what? I think a Sunday night saloon, in order to finish this, is sounding better and better. Everybody, have a great weekend. God bless. Take care. Be safe. I think I'll see you Sunday.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody. Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben. Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good
night. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night and good luck.
And kids, remember,